mean, it's got to be, because it's pivotal, Shannon. I don't know if you noticed, Shannon, it's pivotal. I mean, they won 7 straight. They might not get 8. They might not get 8. Stop it. You know good and damn well, with or without Caitlin Clark, they gonna probably win the gold again. That's not what this conversation is about. What I will personally label the idiocy of Team USA women's basketball. How dare you make this decision? It's stupid. And I'm gonna tell you why it's stupid.
Honestly, no disappointment. Like, I think it just gives you something to work for. That's a dream.
Caitlin Clark is at the center of a storm that keeps growing. What started as a simple roster update has turned into a national discussion, one that stretches far beyond basketball. And just when the whole issue was about to die a natural death, Stephen A. Smith's latest segment pushed this story back into the spotlight and raised questions the league had hoped would disappear. This is no longer about rotations or matchups. It is about influence, ego, business, and the unseen decisions that make a national team what it is. The way he framed the situation has sparked a new round of speculation. Did you watch his segment live? And did you sense the hidden message underneath his words? Let us know in the comments as we delve into this most explosive issue.
Sure, Caitlin is extremely marketable. However, I just want to pitch this to everyone. Imagine Caitlin joining this team and spending time on the bench. What is the conversation going to be about the entire time the Olympics is going on? Why isn't Caitlin getting more minutes? Why isn't Caitlin playing? I'm sure people will tune in, but what will the conversation be then?
When the Team USA list surfaced, the reaction was instant. A routine announcement suddenly dominated every sports show, every timeline, every comment thread. Fans ran through the names again and again, certain they had missed something. Analysts paused mid-discussion. Even people who do not follow the league closely stopped to ask how the most talked about player in the country was not included. The committee offered its explanation. They spoke about continuity. They talked about experience. They pointed to the core group that had been playing together for years. On paper, it sounded reasonable. In reality, it ignored the one thing everyone could see.
Honestly, no disappointment. Like, I think it just gives you something to work for. That's a dream. Hopefully one day I can be there, and I think it's just a little more motivation. You remember that, and hopefully in 4 years, when 4 years comes back around, I can be there.
We talked actually on the bus. She got the call on the bus and she texted me to let me know. And, I just tried to keep her spirits. The thing she said was, "Hey, coach, they woke a monster," which I thought was awesome.
Caitlin Clark was driving more attention, more attendance, and more broadcast interest than the league had managed in 2 decades.
I want to dive right into this one. Chene, was it a mistake to leave Clark off the Olympic roster?
Hey guys, nice to see you all on this beautiful morning. I'll start with this, Molly. I grew up in the pipeline of USA basketball, competing at the U16s, U18s, World University Games, and I also brought back the first ever 3-on-3 gold World Championship medal. And what I have learned in my time with USAB is that Team USA's mission is to construct the best basketball team in the world. Now, as a fan of Caitlin Clark, I would have loved to see her on that stage, doing what she has always done, making moments that grow the game, but Team USA doesn't select simply based off of fandom.
Honestly, this is where the divide started. The official reasoning operated on old assumptions. The public viewed the decision through what was happening in real time. It looked less like a strategic move and more like a message, a guardrail set up by people who wanted to keep control of a system that was suddenly being reshaped by a newcomer. So the question began to circulate. Was the committee protecting team chemistry, or was something else at play? Was this about maintaining a standard or maintaining authority?
None of what Janae and Andrea said was inaccurate. And I'm going to say something to you that I have said on many, many occasions. It's not that you're wrong. It's that we don't care. Everything y'all said does not matter for this particular instance. We don't want to hear anything about Team USA. We know they won 7 straight goals. Put Andrea and Janae up on this screen. I want to look at them this whole segment when I'm talking to them. You just highlighted 7 straight gold medals.
Stephen A. Smith addressed the topic with a level of clarity that cut through the noise. He did not raise his voice or try to spark controversy. He simply laid out a case that made the exclusion appear less like a basketball choice and more like a miss at the business level. He reminded the audience that the Olympics depend on reach. They depend on global attention, broadcast momentum, and recognizable figures. In his view, Clark was the one player who could bring all of that in a single moment. He then moved beyond visibility. He talked about networks that have invested heavily in the growth of the league and ratings that have climbed since Clark entered the conversation. He talked about the value of leaning into a rising star rather than holding her at a distance. What made his segment stand out was the way he took his time. He stretched each point as if he was pushing the audience to examine the machinery behind the decision. He turned a roster discussion into a question about how the sport defines progress. Hit like if you agree with his position that this was not about competition or gold medals.
Especially when the world is catching up. It took a buzzer beater from Stewie for them to beat Belgium in the Olympic qualifying tournament earlier this year. So to me, the primary factor looking at all of this was experience. 9 of the 12 players, as you mentioned, Molly, have competed in the Olympics before. 2 others were all WNBA, and one, the last spot, if you're gonna try to list them down, was finals MVP. And if you dive into her position, the point guard position, again, they chose experience. Diana Taurasi, Chelsea Gray, Sabrina Ionescu, and even if you put a combo guard like Kelsey Plum into that category.
The reaction to Clark's rise did not begin with the national team. There were early signs during her college run. Comments from Diana Taurasi, Cheryl Swoops, and other respected voices carried an unusual sharpness for someone who had not yet played a professional game. They spoke about the gap between college and the league. They warned that success at one level does not translate immediately to another. On the surface, those were standard remarks. The timing and tone, however, revealed something deeper.
So if we're trying to go, because we have a precedent here. This is not like this is to be the first time that we're adding a WNBA player. Because you remember in 2004, they put Diana Taurasi on this team. You remember in 2008, they put Candace Parker on this team. And in 2016, they put Stewie on this team. Now, I'm not saying Caitlin Clark is going to have the career that these, but we have a precedent here. They put the men's team, added Christian Laettner. In 2012, they added Anthony Davis because Blake Griffin got hurt. To highlight some of the things that you said, Chanae, is that hadn't played all year. Chelsea Gray hasn't played all year.
For years, veterans carried the league through periods of low coverage and limited support. They dealt with conditions far different from what Clark walked into. Now, a 22-year-old arrived with record crowds, national sponsors, and instant recognition. That kind of shift was always going to cause tension.
What are we doing? Are we really at some point in time, we've got to stop talking about we're trying to grow the game. Because listen, is she as accomplished? Will she ever be as accomplished as a Stewie, as an Asia Wilson? And I believe those two, obviously they're slam dunk. They're the 2 best players in the WNBA, hands down, and it's not even close. But are we really trying to grow the game? Because this is the most popular women's basketball player in the world, and it ain't close. They had to move the Mystics game to an NBA arena. Name the time.
Other sports embraced their breakout rookies because they understood the value of new momentum. Here, the transition has been more guarded. The league is proud of its history, and veterans take ownership of the work they have done. Clark's arrival challenged that order. It created a space where tradition and market demand pulled in different directions. Stephen A. Smith did not invent this conflict. He simply pointed to it because the decision around the Olympic roster did not happen in a vacuum. It was influenced.
Oh my God, we're really worried that they're not going to get an 8th. Oh, we really worried. I mean, we got to make sure that spots 1 through 12, every single spot that is picked, I mean, it's got to be, because it's pivotal, Shannon. I don't know if you noticed, Shannon, it's pivotal. I mean, they won 7 straight. They might not get 8. They might not get 8. Stop it. You know good and damn well, with or without Caitlin Clark, they gonna probably win the gold again. That's not what this conversation is about. This is about what I will personally label the idiocy of Team USA women's basketball. How dare you make this decision? It's stupid. And I'm going to tell you why it's stupid.
The tension around Clark did not stay in interviews or studio debates. It carried into the games themselves. The most visible moment came during the Kennedy-Carter incident, when Clark absorbed contact that had nothing to do with basketball action. It was abrupt, unnecessary, and the reaction from the league was minimal. No significant discipline, no public statement urging control, no visible support from veteran voices.
I think it's really interesting. Head coach Christy Sides for the Indiana Fever said that a monster was woken up in Caitlin Clark, and I think that is wonderful. I think motivation for Caitlin is wonderful. I'm going to say this, a monster has been woken in all of the women that were selected for the Olympic team also, because the conversation is again centered around Caitlin Clark. If your only argument for Caitlin is that it would have been a great marketing opportunity and you don't have basketball experience or chemistry with the group listed in your reasoning, I don't want to hear it.
In another league, an established star would have been protected immediately. If a player in the NBA delivered that kind of contact to someone with the reach of a Curry or a Durant, the league office would respond within hours. Instead, Clark was left to navigate the fallout on her own. This is where the concern deepens. A player begins to wonder about the environment around her. She begins to question the group she is expected to join for a month-long international run. The Olympics are supposed to bring unity, but the lead-up has delivered the opposite. Hit subscribe if you think the league should address protection and accountability with the same urgency it brings to promotion. Turning to the numbers, Clark's college run produced television records that had not been approached in years. Her early games in the league brought in audiences large enough to shift network schedules. Arenas filled. Ticket prices climbed. Merchandise flew off shelves. Cities moved games into larger venues simply to handle the demand.
Every single one of y'all are deserving of it. Caitlin Clark does not deserve a spot ahead of any of the players on this roster, okay? If we're talking just basketball, you know we're not. You know we're not. Let's harken back to the Dream Team in 1992. Remember when Christian Laettner was on that squad? Forget the other pro players. Forget the pro players. Forget the pro players. That's a given. First time NBA players were allowed to participate. Don't put that damn screen up when I'm talking right now. I want to see Shanae and Andrea, okay? The point is this. Those rosters, right? Those players were on there. Do you know that Christian Laettner also was chosen ahead of Shaquille O'Neal?
Stephen A. Smith saw all of this and understood the larger picture. The Olympic roster is not only about medals, it is one of the biggest stages for expanding a sport's reach. Leaving out the one player who could bring in millions of new viewers was, in his view, a clear misstep at the business level. It raises a simple question. What happens when the Olympic audience comes in smaller than expected? That outcome will not stay confined to this summer. It will influence how future rosters are built, how marketing plans are shaped, and how the league responds to a star who has already changed its trajectory.
And we talked about how dangerous it can be. You're hearing it from the other series. You're hearing other coaches. You're hearing Becky talk about when you let the physicality happen, people get hurt. There's fights. And this is the look that our league wants for some reason. We were trying to play through it. We tried not to make excuses. One of the best players in the league shot 0 free throws.
Right now, Cheryl Reeves stands at the center of two major roles. She guides Team USA, and she leads the Minnesota Lynx. Her early remarks about the broadcast attention around Indiana suggested an uneasiness with the spotlight Clark attracted before her first professional game. Critics argue that this raised doubts about how impartial she could be when shaping a national roster already under pressure. Then there is the sponsorship angle. Clark is moving toward becoming a signature Nike athlete. The Olympics are usually the place where a brand introduces its next global figure. Instead, the committee's choice created distance between Team USA and one of its most important partners. Even Nike seemed caught off guard.
And Alonzo Mourning, you know why? He was a two-time national champion. He was a Wooden Award winner. And he was white. And he had his own cachet. He brought it to the table. He was a big-time collegiate player who was white and busting people's you-know-what. They couldn't miss, and they didn't need him. You had Jordan, you had Magic, you had everybody, and you still picked that dude. Why? It wasn't because of basketball, even though he had the basketball credentials. It was because of something else, and they didn't need DePaul. but the WNBA does.
Stephen A. Smith's reaction mirrored the corporate confusion. The decision ignored obvious alignment between star power and global exposure. It looked less like a performance evaluation and more like politics taking priority over potential. Another discussion has taken shape around this story. It involves the long history of race and recognition in women's sports. Some players and fans believe attention is unevenly distributed, and Clark's rapid rise became part of that ongoing argument. Parts of the debate come from genuine concern about fairness. Other parts have been used online to inflame rivalry and division. This has added another layer of pressure to Clark's first months in the league. She entered an environment already carrying years of unresolved sentiment, and every incident now becomes a national talking point. For a young player trying to adjust to professional life, that weight can be difficult to manage. In this climate, stepping away from the Olympic setting becomes easier to understand. Whether you call it a soft quit or simple self-preservation, the outcome reflects the strain surrounding her.
You got a max salary at $250,000. You had attendance, although it was trending in the right direction, certainly wasn't where you wanted it to be. And as Shannon pointed out just the other day, you got a team in the Indiana Fever with their struggling selves, struggling to win a damn game and be relevant. No team in the WNBA was worse other than the winless Washington Mystics, okay? And they went from 4,000 in attendance to 17,000. This girl is box office. I said a rising tide lifts all boats. What you do, especially if you're Team USA and you're trying to be globalized.
Stephen A. Smith did not declare that Caitlin Clark quit Team USA. What he did was force the public to look at the decisions, the personalities, and the pressure points that shaped this moment. The questions he raised cut deeper than a roster choice. They exposed a system struggling to balance legacy, market power, and the arrival of a new star. This moment will sit in the memory of the sport for a long time. It challenges leaders to rethink how they handle change and how they support the players who move the game forward. Is this the moment the sport finally confronts its internal divisions? Or will the fallout from this roster decision reshape the next decade of women's basketball in ways no committee can control? Kindly share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already.